Afternoon, everybody. You are very welcome to our session this afternoon called Games for Good, Media Literacy and Digital Citizenship. My name is Sally Reynolds from the Media and Learning Association, and it really is my pleasure to moderate this session this afternoon because we have a great lineup of panelists who are going to join us and talk to us about the games that they have developed specifically in the area of social activism, raising awareness. Before we start, just a couple of little bits of housekeeping. First of all, if you don't mind, please make sure that your microphone is switched off, but please do keep your camera on because it's lovely to see who's joining us this afternoon. And also, if you have a moment, if you could change your name on the list of participants to indicate where you're coming from, the country you're coming from, and or the organization, so we have an idea who's joining us this afternoon. You do that by clicking on the three little dots beside your name on the list of participants, and then we can see who's actually with us this afternoon, which is always nice. We'll use the chat throughout the session today, so feel free to put in any comments, any questions, share resources if you like, if there are materials that you'd like to share with everybody, ask questions, use it as openly as you can. We are making a recording of the session this afternoon, and we will be sharing the presentations that are given by each of our presenters this afternoon. So you don't need to take notes there, but we will try where we can to put links into the chat as well. So let me just give you a quick overview of the session this afternoon. We're going to start with Irina Paraschivoiu. I'm sure I've done that all wrong again. Irina, my apologies. From Polycular in Austria, she's going to present Escape Fake. Then Linas Skirius from the Civil Resilience Initiative in Lithuania is going to present the Disinformation Challenge. And then last but by no means least, we have Aphra Kerr from UCD, University College in Dublin, who's going to be presenting an algo literacy game, which is being developed for the AlgoWatch project. So all games, but all games with a reason, games with a purpose. So I really hope we'll have a good opportunity to discuss where the advantages are of using gaming, maybe the challenges as well, in a session a little bit later on when we have an open discussion. But for now, we're going to go first of all to Irina, and Irina is going to introduce Escape Fake to us. Irina, over to you.
Thank you, Sally, and thanks to you and Chloe and your whole team for the invitation today. I'm always very excited to talk about Escape Fake. What I will do in, 15 minutes plus minus, I will try to give you an overview of what our game is about, how it actually works, and I will tell you a little bit about the other tools that we have developed associated with it, and what we found out about how students learn with this game, and also a bit about our future plans. So Escape Fake, in one sentence, is a free-to-play augmented reality game which takes players through a digital escape room to fix the future by debunking fake news. So I'm going to spend a bit of time to unpack this one sentence and what it actually means. So it's a free-to-play game. That means that it's of course free to download in App Store and Play Store. So it's a tablet and mobile game, and it's an augmented reality game. And if you are not sure what exactly this means, I bet most of you have used a QR code before, where you were scanning this image with your phone. And the basic version of this is that you're being taken to maybe a website or another link. What we actually do is that we have some image markers, and when you scan these image markers with your phones or tablets, you see 3D objects that you can then explore from different angles as if you were actually in a 3D space. It takes the players through a digital escape room. If you've ever heard or played yourself an escape room game, you know that it's this kind of puzzle format, which is actually quite popular, where players are sort of trapped in a space, and they have to put together different clues in order to escape. And this is actually also what we do, except that we do it in this digital space through your phones and tablets. And then for the last bit, which is actually quite important for the storytelling and the narrative of the game, what the players actually do is that they fix the future by debunking fake news. How do they actually do that? In our game, we created a character. Her name is Hannah, and she's a quantum reality hacker coming from a dystopian future, which she's trying to fix by going back in time and asking players for their help in order to fact check stories before they actually escalate. And Hannah has a bit of a double role in our game. She's also the one driving the story, but she's also a bit of a pedagogical agent because she helps the players sort of figure out the puzzles by giving them clues or suggestions about what they could be doing next. Our game has 3 rooms or chapters, if you will. They have different narrative stories, so they're actually quite separate from each other. And then the players investigate different topics. We have a prequel, which is a slightly shorter version that takes about 15 to 20 minutes to play, called Museum of Fake. This museum is placed in Hannah's dystopian future, and in this museum, players actually have to hack the exhibits that are telling untruthful stories about the past. And at the end of this prequel, which you can think about as a prologue in a book, they actually get to meet Hannah for the first time. And then we have 2 different rooms that have different narratives. The first one is a bit more focused on misinformation related to refugees and migrant groups. And the other one is tackling topics like digital means of spreading disinformation within the context of the storyline about an influencer who inadvertently led to the dissolution of the European Union. More importantly, each of these chapters also tackles slightly different topics from an educational perspective. So the prequel is more dealing with historic fakes and with visual manipulation techniques. In the bus situation, we cover more basics of disinformation and misinformation, like recognizing fake news, online behavior, privacy and security. And in the second room, it's more advanced topics like evidence collages, deep fakes, social bots, and how do social media algorithms work. So how does our game actually work? To give you a bit of an idea, you place these image markers that I mentioned before, usually on a wall or on a table, and you scan these with your mobile phones or tablets. And then, like I said, you have these 3D objects and environments that you can explore from different angles, and you're putting together these complex clues together. You interact with Hannah through a chat. And there's a couple of things that you can do in the game itself. So you can collect objects that then go down into your inventory. You can combine these objects with other objects to put together different puzzles or clues. And you can examine them by tapping on them to have more information. How do these puzzles actually work, and how do they look like? In Trouble with Eliza, so in our second room, we created a narrative that is comprised of 3 different loops. So what actually happens is at the end of each loop, the players debunk an important part of the story. In this case, It's first an evidence collage, so they verify 3 different images in one video to see if they were manipulated and in which way. In the second step, they reverse engineer social media targeting. So they're actually looking at different keywords and how they might have been used to target specific groups on social media. And in the third step, they actually realized that some of this disinformation campaign involved the use of social bots. So they tried to identify and also eliminate these accounts. For example, in debunking a deepfake image, the players collect images of this particular person. They also do a little quiz where they get to distinguish between real and fake images. Then they actually upgrade a visual analysis tool that they collect in the game. And by applying it to the video, they actually conclude that this was artificially generated. So by doing these 4 steps, we guide them to how you could go about to verify whether an image was artificially generated. We started with Escape Fake in 2019. That was actually the first time where we launched this game, and we came quite far since then. Currently, we cover 5 languages: German, German, Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian. As our project so far was happening in 4 countries. And we also developed an ecosystem of tools that is meant to support educators of all kinds, be they teachers, librarians, journalists, in using our game in different workshops. This includes a toolkit and an online course for educator. We also had a traveling exhibition that includes some pieces designed by artists that worked with us. And those particular installations and pieces help to contextualize some of the topics that we tackle in the game. And we're also now running more workshops for teachers and organizations who think they would benefit from getting in-person training from us. I'm not going to dwell on this too long. I just wanted to mention that we did do some pre and post analysis of the effects of our game. There was also a researcher who did this independently from us and found that there was quite a large effect size. So the difference between the knowledge and confidence of the students before and after playing the game was actually quite big. What we actually noticed, though, is that it's very important how educators run the workshops. And this is something that we emphasize in our toolkit, that they use this experience-based learning where they follow up from playing the game with reflections and abstractions together with the students, so that they actually get to talk in depth about the concepts that they experienced in the game. And also that it's very important to also follow up with other activities that are, for example, closer to their real lives. So once they've learned how a deepfake could be identified, they could, for example, also do different quizzes, or they could use different kind of software for creating different images and see how generative AI works. We're doing quite a few things, starting with this year actually already and early next year. We are preparing translations to 2 more languages, French and Dutch. And we're always open for translations to other languages if there's anyone interested or who wants to volunteer on this. We're super happy if you want to contact us. And we're also going to be doing a co-design process for the next chapter in the game together with educators and students in Austria, Netherlands, and Germany. So again, if this is something that might interest you, we would be very happy if you want to get in touch. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm looking forward to Sally's questions, challenges, and other reflections together with Aphra and Linas
Thank you.
later on.
Thank you, Irina, so much. It's really interesting to see. Anybody got any questions? You can always put up your hand and we will switch on, or you can switch on your mic. Irina, Isabel, I see you got your hand up. Isabel, fire ahead.
Thanks a lot, Irina. It's really, I think my video camera is not working well, but I hope you hear me.
We hear you very well and we see you well too.
It's very, very interesting. I'm so happy that you will be localizing it in French too. And I wanted to know in what is because I understood that it has been developed as part of a co-funded project by the AU and EMIF. The thing is for the localization. How do you proceed? Do you need to? You said volunteers for translation, but do you eventually are you eventually looking for new small partnerships like exchanges of services agreements with media literacy association elsewhere in Europe, for instance? How could we find eventually cooperation? It's my question.
Yes. So, of course, resources, as probably everyone knows, is a question in this field. And it's for sure challenging to be able to cover different language spaces, especially when you're not speaking them. And indeed, it was quite important for us that we had this support from the European Union for basically taking a step forward from where we were when we initially launched the game. It was we are a company, Polycular, so we went heads on into this a bit startup style. So we had an idea and we just wanted to implement the idea. And then what was possible to do with the European Union funding and the MA funding was to really take a step back and create all these additional resources that are so critical for the educators who may be using them. So right now we do have some financial support and partnerships for French and Dutch coming through two organizations. In Germany, it is DPA. They're actually, since they also activate in Belgium, they are the ones who will be dealing with the French translation and with.
Okay. So it will not be it will not be French from France, but from Belgium. It makes sense. Yeah.
Since they have they do have a French-speaking team there. And for Netherlands, it will be another nonprofit supporting us with the Dutch translation, which is VAC Future Lab. We are actively seeking partnerships with nonprofits and also media organizations or press organizations that can involve an exchange of services. We don't have an additional budget right now for more translations, I have to say, though we are actively working on a plan for that as well. So
Irina, I'm going to cut across you slightly just to move us on. No, don't worry.
Yes.
But Isabel, and I think others, I think contacting Irina directly is probably the best thing to do.
I will do.
Open call. Yeah.
I will do.
To work with other NGOs and those. I see we have a question in the chat and also from Bella. Bella, with you just in a second. But Martin has a question about, it's moved on me.
Yes, shortly, I just wanted to clarify, do you work in only, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine. Go ahead.
Sorry. I wanted to clarify. Irina, brilliant presentation. Thank you very much. Just I wanted to clarify one moment. Do you working with images or with texts probably? Because as I've noticed, you are working only with with images, right?
Images or texts from?
Yes, you are trying to text. I mean, with when you're speaking about in different languages, right? You should to put there some texts. Well, as I noticed, you are working in the game, in your game, only with images, right? You're focusing on images mostly.
Okay, only on images, Irina?
No, the evidence collage that I mentioned also contains a video. So there's 3 images and 1 video.
Okay, thank you. Then I'd like to take a couple of quick questions from the chat. Who is the target audience? Would it be suitable for an adult audience as well? Is it
Especially
only?
room 2. So I've played this game with quite diverse people. It's targeted at 12 to 18-year-olds, though especially room 2 being more complex in the topics. I've also played it with EU diplomats, university students, so it can be quite broad as well.
And just a final question then for Martin, and we'll move on to the next presentation. Can students play the game independently as a self-directed resource, or does it have to be facilitated?
They can play it independently, of course. You get more out of it, of course, if you also do this reflection. That's what I was trying to say about this experiential learning, that it's what we noticed is that it's really useful to have the discussions with them afterwards and really talk through, why did we do this? What does it mean? How does it apply to your daily life?
Yeah.
I will, if there's more questions, I will reply directly in the chat,
yeah, thanks very
so
much.
that you can move on with Aphra.
We'd like to do that if we can. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And you'll be with us until the end of the session. We're going to move on, in fact, with Linas Skirius from the Civil Resilience Initiative, Lithuania. And Linas is going to present the Disinformation Challenge game. Linas, over to you.
Hi there. I hope you can hear me well.
We hear you and see the slides very well. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So thank you for the opportunity to present our game, but I'll start from the approach, from different approach. I'll briefly introduce our organization, and then I'll explain why we have created the computer game for our goals to achieve. So firstly, I'm Linas Skirius from Civic Resilience Initiative, and our organization is not for computer games. Was created not for that. Like our main focus of the organization is to fight disinformation and teach the society at large about media literacy and about current and modern hybrid threats such as cyber challenges, election manipulations, and etc. But I think media literacy covers all these topics. So since our creation in 2018, we have witnessed a huge challenge. I think the major challenge of the pedagogy of the 21st century, that we couldn't catch the attention of our listeners. So we had to change the approach and the way how we teach things about disinfo for our target audience. So since the beginning, we started to use gamified learning methods. So we try to skip the classical seminars, classical lectures, and we try to implement some gamified aspects to make it more interesting for the listeners. And of course, our ultimate goal was to have like increased engagement and some kind of social interactions. But soon we realized that gamified content is still not enough in order to have the best results. So then we moved to the further step, which is game-based learning. And even though it has like some similarities with the gamified content, however, it's another step forward because game-based learning is basically refuses all the traditional means of education, such as the teachers, listeners format, and etc. The game itself is a platform for the education, and there's basically no need even for the involvement of the professor or the teacher. So this is the approach that we started to use in the past couple of years. And we started to think how to create a computer game which would be suitable for young adults and for the gymnasium stage students who are like 15, 16, 17 years old. And we realized that we have to think about something that is really recognizable for our target audience. After some research, we understood that the most recognizable computer game in the world and most played computer game in the world is a Minecraft. So we decided to look something related to the voxel-based world, the sandbox style game with the cubic figures and etc. To have like a general recognizability among the target audience, as I mentioned. So we started to develop our own computer game with one Lithuanian edtech startup, which is called 3 Cubes. They had like extensive experience in using Microsoft Minecraft for education. However, there were many limitations, and because of those limitations, we decided to create our own system, our own platform on the open source Mindtest platform. So in this way, we managed to create the similar, still very recognizable computer game to teach our target audience about media literacy, but be 100% independent. So which means that we don't have like any restrictions from the Minecraft Microsoft side, because they always asking for the how to say they're asking for permissions to buy some permissions to use them the platform in schools and etc. And we already knew that it would create a lot of difficulties for us. So with the help from Google initiatives, we created our own. So I'll move forward to show how the computer game looks like in reality, and explain you a little bit about our scenario, what's happening in the game. So I'll try to show the gameplay video, and it's gonna be without a sound, and I'll try to explain what's happening there. So basically, you're playing for yourself. You as a 10th grader, you're playing for yourself, and the whole gameplay takes place in school. You get the information from your teacher that we have a visitor, some kind of expert who's coming to our school today, and he's going to explain about some more important changes within the school system in general. So you as a kid, you go to the assembly hall to listen what the expert proposes, and you hear the news that you don't like, actually, as a 10th grader. So firstly, you learn that he's proposing to have extra 20 hours of extra work in the school, extra homeworks, more exams, and he's proposing some kind of new evaluation system based on your behavior. And of course, you don't want, as a 10th grader, you don't want neither more exams nor more lessons. But deep in the heart, you understand that this Clifford Forbes that you can see now on the screen is a suspicious expert. His proposals doesn't sound right, but you don't have like anything yet to prove that he's wrong. But you have the opportunity to challenge him as an expert in front of the school board, to challenge him and to prove that his suggestions about the improvements for the curriculum has no valid points. So in order to do that, you have to prepare for the debates. And During the preparation sessions, you're trying to remember everything what you learn about the media literacy, about social networks, about the art of debates, and here you're going now through the memories, and you're trying to do the investigation about that expert. So you start from his social profiles examination. You're trying to verify the sources that he's using for his scientific papers. So you're basically trying to dig everything what would be useful for the debates in front of the school board to challenge whether he's a real expert or not. And yeah, it goes like that. In order to win the debate over him in front of the school board, you have to prove that he's wrong. And throughout the game, you're learning things about critical thinking, fact checking. You're learning the basic steps on how to debate. We are encouraging students to use some kind of awesome tools during the game to verify information. We're teaching them how to do the account verification on social media, on the author verification and source verification on scientific papers. So basically the important things for the media literacy. And if you do everything correct, you do your investigation properly, then you have enough of arguments to win the debate. And the final outcome is there's like basically two outcomes. You can win the debate and those changes won't be implemented in your school, or if you do the poor research about the author, about his background, so you won't have like a strong arguments to win the debate and you will lose it. So this means that the changes will be implemented in the school. So it's up to you. There's like no yes or no outcome. It's whole the game is based on the learning process rather than the final outcome. So basically, even after the finishing the game, there's like nothing that says that you're a winner or like a loser. It's everything about the process of education. Yeah, since we've been implementing this this game in Baltic countries, so we have created a computer game for Lithuanian language, Latvian, Estonian. We have this game in English as well, and Russian language for the local Russians in the Baltics to use it. However, we knew that even though this game is created for the schools, we might face some challenges regarding the involvement of the teachers and the general sustainability. So we have created a couple of steps that help us to maintain the game throughout the project, and when the project ends, we hope that it will be continue to use in schools, because we have created the certification process for teachers to get extra points for them. So this means that teachers can become the ambassadors of the game, so they can learn everything about it, and they can get extra points even for their like evaluation as a teacher after every year. Also, we have created teaching guides for teachers for them to be more confident during the lessons, to learn more about possible outcomes, how to conduct it in the class if the intervenience is needed. Also, we have developed a toolkit about all the tools that we're teaching you throughout the game, which is also available in all the mentioned languages, and it's free for download in our website as well. And yeah, and I think the most important part in order to make it sustainable, we have created the incentive program to motivate the teachers to enroll for this program. So, for example, if they enroll to become an ambassadors of the project, they don't only receive the certifications, but they also get some, let's say, bookstore coupons when they reach milestones in the project. For example, if they successfully implement at least 4 lessons in their schools, they send us like the photos, and they can prove that they used it more than once in their school, so they receive a bookstore coupons up to 100 euros. So this incentive helps them to learn not only about the game, but it helps them to earn something for themselves as well. But when they finish the whole process, they already know how to use the game. So we're hoping that next year they will use the game again for the future generations, and it will be sustainable for a whole at least for upcoming couple of years as well. Even though this game is created specifically for schools, but it's also it could be used for the home users as well. At our website, everybody can download it and play at home as a single player. However, it's available only for Windows operational systems. So for those who have PCs at home, they can use it for free as much as they want. Yeah, so this is the QR code. If you want to visit our website, you can download the game toolkits and learn more about the game. And what I wanted also to mention and emphasize, even though that we're currently available only for 5 languages, but we're looking for partners in order to expand. So if there are someone who's interested in implementing this project in your home country, so please feel free to contact us. You can see the handles of our social media. You can directly contact me via LinkedIn. I can answer the questions, and I think this tool is suitable to apply for the future projects and get like some funding to implement and to adapt, localize into your local countries. So I think that's all from my side, and I'm waiting for the questions.
Thank you, Linas. Thank you very much. Indeed, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat for now, or we can have a look and see if there's anybody who's got their hand up. I just want to check with Linas at the moment. It's a single narrative, is it? It's a single story. Do you have plans for other stories?
That is correct. Currently, we have like a single story, but now we are developing also multiplayer option. So probably next year we will launch some multiplayer maps. So it's gonna be different stories, but the ultimate goal will remain the same: to teach about media literacy and to equip our target audience with the tools that can help us to verify information online and offline.
Great. And will you continue with the Minecraft approach?
Actually, it's gonna be similar, but we're going to use the online platform for that. So it's still, our current game is just Minecraft lookalike. I'm using the term Minecraft in order to be recognized, but actually it's our platform, but it does not allow to play us on multiplayer level. So we'll move to another platform, but the whole concept more or less will remain the same.
Great, thank you very much. And as Chloe said, it's easy to install and play, so we encourage lots of people to use it. I don't see any other questions popping up at the moment. Just one other thing.
There is one in the chat.
Just at the moment. Thank you for Mary. What is the target audience and feedback from the teachers? Who is it specifically targeted at? Maybe age?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned, but I'll try to clarify it again. So it's initially, it was created for 15, 16 years old kids, but what we have witnessed, it works much better with the older. So it's really applicable for the 17, 18 years old as well. And we tried even with the young adults. So it still works with them since the content is pretty relevant. However, it really doesn't work with 12, 13, or 14 years old kid. They're simply too young for that. So, and feedbacks from the teachers. So, of course, they're very happy because they can use innovative techniques without their deep involvement to use it like during the regular classes, because it fits at least into Lithuanian curriculum. We have civic education, and it covers some topics from that. At the beginning, it was a little bit too long for the 45 minutes lesson. So after our latest improvements, which was published just last week, now we can do that. Now it's we fixed some mistakes. We're still getting the feedbacks what should be improved, and yeah, we're working on updates on monthly basis. So
and it's a bit shorter then.
For 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, that makes a big difference to teachers, I think. Susie Healy asks, how do teachers measure the learning?
Yeah, so we pretty often get the question about the evaluation, but that was our initial purpose, not to have like a traditional, like a grade system in order to measure the outcomes, but in general, the one measure is whether you won or not the debate. If the experts' suggestions are being implemented in school, so this means that you didn't construct good arguments, therefore you haven't done proper research, so you can play it again and try to find out what you did wrong. But yeah, we're doing like on sometimes post event surveys when we gather the feedback
Do
about.
you publish that anywhere that people could look it up?
Not yet. We're still still working. We're in progress. Now we started in Latvia and Estonia, so I think after 3-4 months we'll have better results from the surveys.
Great,
But,
you can always share
but
them with us.
initial result shows positive signs that, especially we like it because teachers are willing to use it in the future without our interference. So this is the most important thing.
Yeah, and just a final point from Alessandra. She said her daughter in my room, she just heard Minecraft style and she really wants to use it. And the question is, can it be a family activity as well?
Yes, it can, because if you have PC with the Windows, you can download it, the English version, and you can play it together.
Super. Okay.
But it depends on the age. If she's really young, so you'll have to help her, because
That's back to you, Alessandra. Okay.
Because, while conducting investigations, you need to read something and analyze the social media accounts, etc.
Thanks, Linas. We're going to hold it there because we would like to move on to our third input this afternoon. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Aphra Kerr. Aphra is joining us from UCD, University College in Dublin, and she's going to talk about the development of an algo literacy game under the AlgoWatch project. Aphra.
Thank you very much. Are you hearing me okay?
Perfectly.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you for the invitation, and it's really wonderful to hear these other games and hopefully to learn from their experience. I am going to speak about a game that's still in development, so this is why it's really great to hear how things have gone before. But before I do that, I guess I'll just give some motivations as to why we are working and developing games. So I'm based usually in Dublin, although I happen to be in Helsinki at the moment. This is an image down the River Liffey in the centre of Dublin that I took on my walk through the city one day. I'm also a PI in the Adapt Research Centre, and the AlgoWatch project is funded by Creative Europe, and we're just over 1 year into a 2-year project. Will the slides move? That's
good luck. Oh, you're away.
Oh, yes, just a delay. Okay. So I'm a social scientist and I'm an academic as a full-time job. So that's the context in which I am working. And I've been researching games for quite a long time. Who makes games, who plays games. And you would think I would know better than to start making games, having looked at how difficult it is to make games, watching other people make them. But somehow I have managed, after about 20 years, to become involved in working with, or at least supporting, other people who have the skills to make games. And one of the reasons for doing this, I suppose, is that I am interested in how games can be used in different contexts. I can see how they can be motivational, how they can be fun, how they can be challenging. And I'm very interested in what other ways in which, how can we design them differently, maybe from some of the commercial off-the-shelf games, even though some commercial off-the-shelf games can be very useful in learning contexts. So in case you don't know me, this already dates me. I have published 2 books on games, on the games industry and the cultures of game and gameplay, going from kind of early console games and then through to mobile, which is in the last book, was really covering that shift to free to play and mobile. And as I was doing the second book, part of one of the chapters, we really had gone back to look at some of the early work around game-based learning and what sometimes is called serious games. And often some of the key textbooks that, apologies to people who are very familiar with this, they will mention people like James Paul G. with What Video Games Can Teach Us, Learning and Literacy, Digital Game-Based Learning from Mark Prensky, for example, which are all about how games can be used, what are the new forms of literacies that games can support. There also was a report produced by the Joint Research Centre of the European Commission, which was very interested in around 2013, to try and guide research programs towards what they were calling meaningful or applied games. And they were also picking up on this language of serious games to try and distinguish them supposedly from fun games. And that distinction has been a bit problematic as we try to develop games, because of course we do want people to learn, but we do also want them to have a bit of fun. Otherwise, you know, how and why are we getting them to play games? And so this has been a really interesting part of academic research. And it's also now very interesting to see people in companies looking at trying to develop these types of games as well, and to see what can be done. What's happened more recently, and why we have to be a little more careful about games, of course, is that shift to kind of what some people call surveillance capitalism, or datafication of games. That is the gathering of data on games and about gameplay on all of the platforms. And of course, a lot of children's play cultures, whether if in commercial games, there's an awful lot of data gathering, which is used to serve ads to them or to serve other forms of monetization. And so we need to be quite careful about that when we talk about games, and when we talk about not all games are the same, and many games can be designed in different ways. And what the starting point for the projects I've been involved in is that it's not about datafication, it's not about surveillance in that way. The only sort of data we want to really know is, where did they get stuck? Did they complete the game? And maybe how many downloads. So we're going to really just be taking very, very basic types of data and not gathering much of that background data, and certainly are not going to be, in the age of GDPR, etc., passing it on to any other companies. So we're trying to approach designing this game more with the values in mind. What are we trying to teach? And then thinking about digital citizenship. And so when the AlgoWatch project came along, it seemed to fit very well with the kinds of approaches and my interests. It was about thinking about what are the kinds of public values we want to foster through games. It's about building upon decades of media literacy research, which had a focus on competencies, skills, attitudes, and trying to create content which would support not just knowledge about things, but also the skills to do things. And then that crucial third stage, which is reflection, thinking about what you did and connecting it to your everyday life, as Irina talked about with the resources they produced. So some of the things that I might point you to, if you're not familiar, and some of you might be, is this work by Sonia Livingston, their teams by Playful by Design Principles, which is a card game where they give to and work with commercial game companies to think about the rights of the child, giving voice to young people in terms of their playful encounters, whether they're digital or non-digital, and trying to think about these in the design of games. And this is very much linked back to the rights of the child and the UNESCO Charter, thinking about how do we encourage play around children and protect the rights of the child to play and to learn through play. And finally, I would say that I have been particularly interested in some of the work of the artist Mary Flanagan, based in New York, who wrote a number of years ago a book called Values at Play in Digital Games, and how can we develop critical play, playing about radical game design, do game design differently. And her most recent book, which I haven't read yet, but she was talking about a month ago, I heard her, is about analyzing colonialism and empire in commercial games. So this is about a very different way of excavating and learning about and through games, looking at commercial off-the-shelf games and examining the types of content that are in them. But she's, as a game designer, she's also interested in how to design games differently. And finally, somebody who I was very much inspired a little bit when you're starting to think about how you can design differently is some of the board games and work of someone like Brenda Romero, who people may know is like 25 years of working as a game designer. But this particular game was a board game which was to encourage reflection on the Holocaust, and was designed around trains on a train track. A very simple kind of game, but actually exploring really important issues through and this was actually put in exhibitions and then could be ordered, at least limited order, to be used as well, and now is in a number of museums. So here you can see thinking about game design with values in mind, thinking about game design with competencies in mind, and all of this makes it incredibly complicated to design a game. Let me start with there. I've been involved in organizing game making events, many of which are non-technical, actually are about board games, and inspired by groups in Canada and other places like Dames Making Games. Many of these events are about encouraging people who are not in the games industry, don't see themselves as game designers, to become game designers. So these are often very much based around and focused on inclusion, to encourage more women, more people from minority communities to think about designing games. And we've done these events, including trying to design board games, of which I'm not great, but you can design board games around mathematical puzzles, around seizing towns. And I have found designing board games to be a really fabulous intergenerational activities where families can come along together of all age groups and work together. And we released a report a couple of years ago now, which is open access from that mural, which is about how to design inclusive game making events, which can be digital or non-digital. A second project we were involved in was my first involvement in actually designing a game, although I wasn't the designer. We had a designer, thankfully. And this was for an exhibition in Dublin called The Bias Built This Way exhibition in Dublin Science Gallery. This opened just before lockdown in COVID, but we did manage, and it was part of a number of interactive installations. And I worked with a designer here called Flag for Removal, based on research we had done on community managers and how difficult it was for AI to understand the meaning of content. We trained an AI on labeled content that we had taken from various social media accounts relevant to Ireland. And the people who came to the exhibition had to play against the AI with a kind of time pressure to see how difficult it was both for humans and AI to understand content out of context, right? To understand the meaning of content and what could be bias in the relation of social media content. And I worked with Caroline Sinders, who's from the London School of Arts on this. It's a very simple interface. It's projected on a screen. You walk up, you use the mouse, and you just play against the AI standing there. Other people can become involved as spectators, and I always like that because other people commenting on what you're doing, communicating, chatting is also really interesting. Okay, so then the project we're working on now is called AlgoWatch, and I believe there'd been a presentation previously, so I won't go into too much detail on this, but just in case people haven't heard of it, This is actually taking as a starting point media literacy and seeing what do we need to upgrade in terms of media literacy for AI and algorithms. So what are the new skills that we need in media literacy in the algorithm and AI age? Of course, when we wrote this project proposal, we were focused on algorithms and thinking about AI in a little bit down the line. And then ChatGPT launches and everybody's talking about generative AI, and that has shifted a little bit what we're doing. So we're halfway through, and the idea here is our project partners are developing quizzes and an exhibition, and the team in Ireland is working on a game. These are our partners. I used to work in Maynooth until last summer, and now I've moved to UCD, and that's why Maynooth is on the project. We're building upon some, Davina, the person who is working with us on the project, she has written about how to update media literacy competencies for the current age, and that's a document that's available from the UNESCO website, and that's the basis for where we start. And it's also available on our website, the competence framework, where we take digital competencies, a framework developed at the European Commission and updated for algorithm and AI, and see what are the competencies we can target, because we can't target all of them, in our different resources. So we are currently designing a game working with a target age group of about, actually this says 15 plus, but as we've started to work on it, we're thinking 13 to 15, but we're pretty much targeted at 15-year-olds. And that is because in the schools, in the school curriculum, at least in Ireland, that's a year where they have less exam pressures. We have a team here, and we have added 2 people since. These are our avatars designed by our generative AI, and I look like a 1950s housewife in this, but this is what it seems to suggest. And what we did was we started with co-creation sessions, and we went into a number of schools and also into youth groups in 3 different areas. And we worked with young people, boys and girls, to see what they were playing, how they were playing, and what they thought could be useful in terms of designing a game around mis and disinformation for their age category. So that's our starting point, and we did those exercises last spring. And we have been coming up with 4 main stories for a game that link to curriculum in our 4 partner countries. The one in red is actually one that came up and was suggested by the young people. The first 3 were in our actual project proposals. So they were interested in influencers and online relationships and how algorithms influence influencers. And that was something that in their age group, they were seeing a lot and having a lot of discussions. I won't go through these, we can certainly share them. These were our principles, right? Co-designing with the young people, no advertising, will be accessed via the browser, so no technology installation, open-ended and self-paced, adventure and puzzles, attending to safety, data privacy. We're going to play test, which we've started doing at the moment. And then we've been developing with our partners pre and post tests for evaluation. And it's going to start by being available in 4 languages, but we'd be interested in making it available in others. Then there will be also different resources for the kind of toolkit, which will be wrapped around the game and the quiz and be available by about next summer from our website. So I'm just going to show you we don't have a video playthrough because we're not at that stage, but I'm going to show you the types of things that we're developing at the moment. And then please intervene and stop me. Just keep an eye on the time here when we want you to finish. So these are just some screen grabs I took this morning from the latest build. And in this one, we're actually leaving Earth and going to an alien world. And we've had some very interesting discussions about how to depict the design of the characters, how to name the characters so that they work across cultures, and then how to make the game kind of playable. We have these 4 stories when you move in, and we're just dropping in the artwork. Not all the artwork is in the game at the moment, where you arrive into this room and you can choose a storyline: active citizenship, online relationships, climate, health and well-being. There are obviously maps for moving around. And what we've written and the storylines that we're coming up at is that you are arriving to this alien planet and you start to hear rumors on the particular storylines, and you have to find facts, ask people, check your sources, talk to other characters in the game to see, is the rumor true, is it not true? And by doing this, you're actually going to solve and see what is the actual truth of the storyline. We also have some mini game mode, and each of the mini games levels would teach you how an algorithm works. So in the first one, you'll be taught about how when you react to something online, how that influences your social media profile. In a second one, we'll show you and get you to play around with how personalization works in terms of your social media profile. And in a third one, it'll be how your data is stored and how moving or removing your cookies, for example, can change how your profile and what data and information is shown to you. So we're in testing iteration, building out and also translating at the same time, because the developer we're working with, we've hired them kind of full-time into the university working with it. We have a writer, we have an artist, and we have a developer working on this game, but it is a small team. So it's never going to be able to take on the commercial off-the-shelf types of games. But we are going to be also now moving into training in the 4 countries, talking to teachers and seeing what works in the local contexts. And it has been very interesting to see teachers connected to local curriculum and to give us feedback on the storylines for the game, but also to tell us what works in terms of technology and the type of length of classes that they have. So we think that having one story and 2 mini games will work in a 45-minute class. And then if people have more time or want to do it outside of a classroom, they can explore more storylines and maybe do more playing with the mini games. So that's pretty much it from me. These are my connections. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to some of your questions, suggestions. And I was too afraid to do a playable demo, and we didn't have a video just yet, although there will be a video to explain to people and to explain to teachers, because we know that's what they like. When we talk to teachers, we've found, at least in the Irish context, they're a bit reticent when they hear a game. They're reticent because they think they won't have the skills. They don't know how it will fit. They don't know necessarily how they will support the students in a classroom context if things go wrong. And so these are the sorts of issues we need to address as we plan this and planning the resources. At the same time, we know from research that the best learning outcomes will be when we connect to the curriculum and the teachers are well supported in terms of being able to deliver it, linking to the curriculum that they have to deliver. So this is an interesting design and research challenge, I would say, but other people have overcome it, and probably would have suggestions for us. So thank you.
Aphra, thank you so much. It looks, I think you were very brave to show us how far you've got, so don't worry. And it's really interesting to get the whole context as well. Thank you so much for all of the references. And of course, we're very happy to share those resources as well with people. If there are any questions, I see Ellie's question regarding, it's a little bit more of a general question, so I'm going to hold that for a moment, if I may, because I think that's one I'd like to put to everybody in a few moments. But just for you specifically, Aphra, are you looking for others at the moment to collaborate with in other countries, or is it still too early for that?
It may be a little bit early. We are kind of testing, and we have one storyline going out and being tested in France and Portugal and Ireland in the next 2 months, and just learning from that first. But I think later in a couple of months, we definitely be very interesting. Are the quizzes suitable for university level? The quizzes are actually available on the website in 4 languages at the moment on the different themes, and you can have a look at those and see if you want to, what you think. I think actually they are probably useful for older age groups and university level. If you were doing, misinformation, disinformation in climate, I think it would be useful to raise questions around algorithms and to have people talking. There is going to be a glossary of the key terms as well, because what we found in the first testing is that everybody uses the word algorithm, but doesn't necessarily know what it means. People talk about mis and disinformation, and we think everybody understands those terms, but they don't necessarily. So rather than presume, we're just going to provide a glossary alongside with the quiz. And we would be actually very interested to see if people want to contact us and provide us with some feedback about how it works at a university level class. And we'd be love to partner with you or find out more. Because obviously the funders would love to hear that, and we would love to hear. We're on this project till next October, so we're going to be able to tweak it, till then, and then there's a 2-year sustainability plan as well. So we would hope to be iterating and developing the projects. So
that's an open call to you then, Taweb, when you test them out in Salzburg. If you'd like to then let Aphra and our colleagues know, they'd love to hear about that. So you can follow up, of course, afterwards. Indeed, I'm going to have Linas and also going to have Irina join me on the screen as well, because we have a few minutes. We're going to have a short discussion until about 1:15 here in Belgium. So you're going to stay with me. And I just wanted to put that first question to you, which came from Ellie, because she asked about the element of reflection. Thinking about what you did and applying it in your everyday life seems, as she says, absolutely vital. And how do you really ensure that takes place and people don't get caught up just in the game bit, just in the fun bit? How do you build in that reflective element? Maybe I could start with you, Irina.
Sure. So to narrow it down, there's actually 2 things that we did, again, based on our iterative process. So there are quizzes in the game. The quizzes are meant as a little bit of a recap in terms of what has happened up to a certain narrative point. So I was explaining before that room 2 has 3 kind of narrative loops. And then there's a quiz at the end of each narrative loops, which is a bit of a recap for students on what exactly they did and what did they find out. Of course, in a classroom situation or in a workshop situation, it's important how the person who is leading the session is doing it. And I guess this is something that all 3 of us mentioned, that it's super critical how you train the teachers, how you prepare them to do this. And I mean, I can show you with respect to our toolkit how we structured it. By the way, you can download this freely from our website. You just need to create an account. But basically, for every room, okay, there's a general introduction and how do you actually set it up? How do you use it in the classroom? But for every experience in the game, you have a description of what is there, a walkthrough of how to play it. So it's like your educator cheat sheet with all the answers.
Summarizes what you should do. Yeah.
We also have these terms. Some of them are like technical terms, and some are more related to the narrative that we created in our Escape Fake universe. And then you have these 3 other points that really relate to this experiential learning. And I'm super happy Aphra also mentioned game-based learning, that are really about this. So it's the debriefing is really about how do you actually start the conversation after they played the game. And this part is really focused on what did we just do? Yeah, so again, you're going back maybe also to what is there in the quizzes. Then there is the reflection bit, and this is the extrapolation side of it. So how does this apply to my daily life? Have you ever seen a deep fake? And we provide the teachers with guiding questions for these.
Yeah.
And I did not mention it earlier because, time is short. But we offer 2 more things. So the toolkit is actually a set of things. It's this PDF. But we also have ready-made PowerPoint slides. So basically the teachers can download this for now in the 5 languages. Yeah. And you already have these debrief questions prepared for you. You can, of course, adjust them, go through it and see what makes sense for you. In some rooms, we have a lot of content, especially in room 1 and 2. So you can just cherry pick what you want to focus on. And there's also this riddle sheet that we encourage teachers to use with the students while they're playing. Linas talked about multiplayer. I also didn't mention this. We recommend that students play in pairs on a device, because then they can support each other. Yeah, so there
So
we
it's
have
built
two.
in, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really,
so basically we recommend that you pair two students on a tablet and they play together. And they take turns noting on this riddle sheet the answers to what they did. And this is also really to just make them think while they're playing this.
Thank
So,
you, Irina. I'm going to hold you
I
there.
stop here. Yeah.
If you don't mind, because as you say, if it's very hardwired, it's built into the game, which is great. Linas, what about you?
Well, I think we face the same challenges. However, our game is like a reflection of the reality. For example, if you're analyzing social media platforms, so it's like some kind of similar to the Facebook, or TikTok or Instagram. If we're like using a Google search engines, it's somehow similar to the Google. So even though it's like in the Minecraft, so everything reflects the reality. So during the reflection part, if the teacher is well prepared, so he can talk exactly about the real-time situations without even without any hesitation, because the game is a complete reflection of the reality, but just gamified. So yeah, and we also did some walkthroughs in our toolkits, the guides for the teachers. So I think it's pretty similar to what Irina just mentioned.
What about you, Aphra? I presume that's being built in, very much part of what you're planning?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm also answering questions
I
here
know, yeah.
as we go. So
It's
I'm
quite
like
busy in there.
I was just answering the question about why are the commercial companies not.
Let's come to that as a separate. I'd like to get all of your views on that. But in the meantime, I presume you're building in reflection is hardwired into what you're
Yes,
doing.
yes, we are. And actually, when you get to the end of a rumor story cycle, there'll be a kind of reflection. When you get to the end of a mini game, it's kind of reiterated what you've just solved. So it's in game, and then it's in the toolkit as well. So and our toolkit isn't as developed as Irina's, so I'll be having a careful read of yours just to check how you've done that. So thank you for sharing that.
And I wanted to put that question for Mikko really to all of you, because all of you are talking about publicly funded projects, and we're not seeing it happening in the games industry yet at a commercial level. Why is that? Why are we not seeing these kinds of topics and themes, which are so important, being taken up by the big games producers? Aphra, any thoughts? It was directed at you.
Yeah, well, who are the big games producers? So if you think about the biggest games producers in the world, you've got Tencent, Microsoft. Microsoft now own Activision Blizzard. It owns King, who owns the AI companies as well. So I guess they don't see it yet as profitable enough to do it in purely commercial terms, and somehow they don't see it as part of their corporate social responsibility necessarily either at this point. Although they do fund initiatives around AI literacy. So they've just done a big one in Ireland. Google has just funded an initiative for all schools, secondary schools in Ireland, which as we came along with our little funded project, I have to say, was a little bit, yeah, we were sorry to the timing of when it was released, so a lot greater resources than we managed in this project. But we start from a very different starting point, and we think having that values-based approach and media literacy-based approach is very different from the ways in which they would approach a project like this.
Sure.
So I don't know.
Linas, any thoughts?
So our game is 100% funded by Google, by private companies, so it doesn't apply probably for us. You can tell that we are privately funded, just 100% by Google, and yeah, and also just some volunteer work, but we are. However, like I know that I understand the question, but for example, we are creating the game which is suitable for classes, so there are so many restrictions. You cannot show any violence and etc., and which is probably the major motive to play the game, because like kids actually want to destroy something. They want like these things that are not allowed like in the school. So I think the companies, they're not thinking about making it by themselves, because it's not going to be profitable because of
indeed.
those restrictions.
Irina, what about you?
Yeah, it's interesting because we are a game company, but we are not that kind of game company. So we actually don't define ourselves fully as a game company because the way we like to frame it is playful learning. In short, what I can say from my experience, this area of playful learning versus entertainment games, huge difference in funding. Yeah, it's all about profitability, and we have friends and colleagues who are smaller studios, indie game companies, but they produce games also for bigger distributors. And we know that their business model is entirely different. So I think we really are talking about two very different things: entertainment games and educational games, and the funding discrepancy is huge.
It's huge. Yeah. Just the last question then, just from us, insofar as how do you get the balance between making sure it's a fun game and it still addresses the social objectives and the meaningful value-based objectives that you've built in? Irina, how do you do that? Have you got any quick tips on how to make sure it's still fun, or how do you get that balance right? Do you want to think about it? I'll go back to you in a second.
Tough question. I mean, the thing is, I think the short answer is working with experts if you're producing an educational game. Yeah, so you need to have that content and you need to be very clear about what you're making. And then how to make that entertaining, I think thumbs up and applause goes to our extended team. They are brilliant game designers, developers, really, really good at their job.
Get the right people on board.
Yes.
Yeah. Linas, how do you do it? How do you make sure it's good fun still?
That's the hardest part, actually, of creating the educational game. It's super hard to find the balance between fun and educational. But like, since we are creating the game, our main target is a classroom. So you can have like just imagine you come to the classroom and you ask the 30 kids that are sitting behind their desks, what do you want? Book and classical lesson, or you want to play Minecraft? Guess the answer.
Okay, that's easy enough. Aphra, any final thoughts on how to get that balance right?
Maybe three things. First of all, manage expectations of the students so that they know they're not going to get a Grand Theft Auto the minute they open it. Second thing is playtest with the age group so that you get the balance right. And I'm not the age group and I'm not the target, and my playing is often not good enough. We put it in front of 15-year-olds and they knew exactly what to do. So that was kind of really interesting. And then, fun is kind of subjective. I think the interesting thing to do is think about the scaffolding and think about entry levels so that you get introduced to something and then there's a challenge and then there's a challenge. So the ones can go fast and the other ones can be self-paced so that everybody can have their fun in it rather than, so what we know from the games research is some people don't like games because they associate them with maybe first-person shooters or other people, right? They prefer puzzles, they prefer slow paced. So whatever you developed has to make sure it doesn't presuppose a form of fun that someone likes, right? That you might build in some opportunities for different types of playing, as well as we would think about different types of learning. And if we can incorporate a little bit more of that into some of our games, maybe we're on the right track. But this is from a novice here, and come back to me in 6 months' time and I might give you a different answer.
We will indeed. I think we'll definitely be coming back to this topic in the future. Thank you so much to the three of you. It's really been great to share all of the resources. Thanks for everything that's been going on in the chat. That's been really, really helpful. Please reach out to one another. The slides will be shared. Contact details will be shared as much as we're able to and allowed to. And I just have two final messages just to put up. Chloe's going to put up two slides quickly just as we come to the very end. So first of all, just to remind people, if you'd like to become a member of the Media and Learning community, if you're not already a member, you can of course join us as an association or as an organization or as an institution. We'd love to have you join us. Over 90 plus organizations are currently members of the association. As you can see, 25 different countries. we do lots of things. We do these online events. We have special interest groups. We run an annual awards scheme, and we have conferences, of course. And you'll find more information about how to become a member on the slide as well. And then just one last one, we will have our spring agenda will be announced in our newsletter. So our next newsletter goes out at the beginning of January. Look out for it, because that's when we'll be announcing our spring agenda. So my big thanks. Thank you so much to Irina. Thank you so much to Linas, so much to Aphra, and of course also to my good friend and colleague Chloe, who manages to keep the whole thing on the road. And thank you to you for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the session this afternoon. We've also had great fun, and a happy Christmas if we're not talking to you in the meantime. And exactly, and welcome into the new year. I hope 2025 is a good one, a peaceful one, and a happy one for all of our community. Thank you all so much. Bye bye now.